Hello and welcome to episode 47 of Retro Recall the PS1 Chronicles, a show where we play and rank every PlayStation game ever created. My name is Jimmy, and as always, I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
So a bit of a unique episode this week. Whenever we started this show, originally I had intended to not include re-releases, remasters, compilations, because then that just bumps the numbers up that we got to play. And I mean, there was a comment on a video a while ago where they're like, you're aware there's thousands of games, right?
Yeah.
We're like, yeah. So I kind of went back on that because I'm like, well, it is a PS1 game, but this is just, I don't know how to score this. And I know you struggled with it too. So
We say in the beginning, we play and rank every PlayStation game. So this has the PlayStation logo on it. And I think we have to do it. Even though, like you said, it's just a re-release of older games. It's weird. It's going to be an odd one to rank at the end, but I'm intrigued on where this is going to go.
yeah, I feel like this will be almost like a test run for these types of games because there are a lot like this. And for example, there's even straight up remasters or re-releases that I'm still considering whether or not we should do, like Super Nintendo games that got a re-release on PS1 with a cutscene added or something. You know what I mean? It's I don't know.
Cutscene.
I'm pretty sure Chrono Trigger got re-released on PS1 and they just added some opening cutscenes or something. But I don't know. It's going to be one of those things we figure out as we go, obviously, like everything else.
Exactly.
But yeah, so just to get into this a little bit before we start talking about the game, do you have any nostalgia for this era of arcade games?
Not in the sense of arcade games, more or less. Obviously, one of the ones we're going to be playing is Pac-Man. I played that a lot on, I think Genesis or something. Or maybe, I don't know, an old system that I had. I played all the time. I don't think I've ever actually played any of these in the arcades. What about you?
I think we talked about it before, but Kennywood in Pittsburgh has the little retro arcade. At least they did last time I went. Yeah. So I played some of those. But it was always hard to justify spending my money on that when I'm I could play the new cool games. But I think in the past year, I went to Dave & Buster's and I played the big Pac-Man and the big Galaga, that's pretty fun.
Oh, nice. It's one of those things I didn't actually start playing in arcades until Mortal Kombat. Or if I was in the arcade, it was always fighting games for me.
Fighting or driving for me.
Yeah.
I always would play the driving games. So fun in an arcade with a wheel.
Oh, yeah. And especially whenever they have that shifter on the side, you're like, ooh, this is a good machine here. So it was one of those things I don't think I was playing these types of games in the arcade. And I may have seen them and it just didn't intrigue me as a child. Arcades weren't really big for me because, like you said, the money aspect of it.
I believe I had one of these collections as a kid. I don't know which one. I don't know where I got it from, but I don't have any specific memories as to games I liked. I'm pretty sure I just messed with it for one day and then never touched it again, probably.
That makes sense. I'm wondering, it's a cool idea. And we'll talk about that more when we finally get into this episode.
But yeah, that's really all I got. We could talk about each game and our history with Pac-Man, whatever, as we go through each of these. So we're going to go through each collection. We're going to go through each game, give a score on each collection, then move on to the next one. So let's go ahead and get started with Volume 1. Namco Museum Volume 1 was released on July 31st, 1996, and these were all obviously developed and published by Namco.
Mm-hmm.
Like we said, these are arcade compilations with a history museum aspect to it. So I think before we even get into any of the games, what were your thoughts on the general interface and the museum part?
I was very shocked that it was an actual museum. You told me, okay, Namco Museum, awesome. Wasn't expecting it to be just a full-on museum that you can walk through and look at exhibits for each game. So I was very surprised, but in a good way. It was cool that it's I'm walking up to this thing and reading it and can read the history, can see the history of these magazines and merchandise and stuff. It's a really cool thing.
I love it. Just the vibes when you're walking around with the music. And
yeah.
It's just very relaxing.
It is. And though that is quickly diminished whenever you click on an item to look at it, it pops up a loading screen that takes forever to even look at the item for 3 seconds. then you exit out, and then you're back into a loading screen to get back into the museum.
Yeah, I was telling you earlier, I looked at like one thing. Like at first, when I first started playing, I was like, oh, I'm going to look at all these. And then I'm like, well, now that I see there's loading screens for every single one, I'm not doing that. But I tried to look at just a few for each game. And there's a thing at the end right before you go to the room with the game in it where it shows you how to play the game and the story of it and all that, which I found very cool.
Also, right next to that, did you click on the projector at all?
Yeah, it shows you close-ups on the sprites and stuff, right?
Yeah. It just shows you every aspect of the game, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, not to get too off topic, but there's a newer release like this. It's called Atari 50. I don't know if you've heard of this.
No, I have not, no.
So it's a modern thing like this, but for Atari, 50 years of Atari. So the way they do it is it's on a timeline and you go year by year and you can play a game. They have modern remakes of the old arcade games. It has all the history. It has full-on documentaries that they made just for this that you can watch right in the game.
That's really cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's on Steam. You should check it out. It's really cool. I never finished it, but like it's just from a history video game documentary perspective, it's worth it.
I will do that once we're done recording. That's pretty much what I could imagine this being if this came out nowadays instead of on the PlayStation.
Yeah, I mean, just for what this is, I really, really like it. I think obviously it could be done a little better, but for the time period, I think they did what they could, and I genuinely like it.
Though I will say some of the items that you can look at are, I don't know, weird. Like in every single room, there's a circuit board that you can look at. I don't know why did you run out of items to put into the museum for that game? And it's just like, oh, here's the circuit board that it used to be played on.
I think for people who have nostalgia for this, that's like an important thing. I don't know.
Okay. And that would make sense. I was very confused. Whenever I saw it in the 3D view, I thought maybe it was a map of like, oh, here's the city and like, here's where the game was developed or something.
You're like, no, it's just a circuit board.
Yeah, I was like, wait, oh, okay, this is all they want to show me.
I will say, the first person movement is not great, but it's fine. But I always found myself getting caught on things. That happened to you?
It was definitely one of those things of you would turn a corner as if it was in real life. It's like you snag your shoulder on the corner of the wall and you can't move forward. So I got to the point, because I was getting so annoyed by that, I just started going wide around the corners.
Yeah.
But it's also nice too, because they have a run button. Well, run in quotes. A walk faster button.
Well, I did not know that.
Oh, I looked in the manual and I found it only because we'll get into this later, but there's reasons. And it's like, oh yeah, to move faster, just hit circle. And it's not like you're missing much. The walking faster animation is just slightly faster. It's not that noticeable, but it does get you to where you're going.
Weirdly enough, I actually don't mind moving slow just because like the vibes of this. And what I was going to bring up next is for each game, they have a unique room that they built in full 3D based around that game.
Yes.
So like slowly moving around that, looking at it, it's very cool. The music, it's also like an updated version of the music from the game. By the way, across all of these collections, 10 out of 10 music.
Oh, 100%. I knew you were going to bring that up. And every single time I walked into the room, I'm like, can I just stay in this room for a while? Because the music alone is great. The environments are really cool to look at and progressively get better through each volume. I will say, though, I skipped the rooms at first because I think the first game we're going to talk about, what was it called?
Toy Pop.
Toy Pop. With that one, it's just a white, almost like heavenly area that you're in. And because of that, I thought that was just the same for every single room. So I did the quick select for the games to just quickly get there.
Oh, you were missing out.
Right. But whenever I went to Volume 2, I went into a new room and it's completely different. I'm like, wait a minute. This is weird. And then I went back to the first game to check out all the different levels.
Yeah, the entire reason I picked this collection for this was obviously because we haven't played one of these yet, but it was also because I listened to a YouTuber makes these collections of songs from PS1 games called Club PlayStation. I'll have to send you this. I can't believe I've never sent it to you. But it's like a bunch of YouTube videos that are playlists of songs from different games. And there was one that had a couple songs from one of these collections. And I was like, wow, this is like so sick. So that was the whole reason I picked it. So
nice. And on top of like the unique rooms, even when you walk into the like hallway, of each game. There's unique color palettes for each one. The Toy Pop one gave me like a horror vibe. The way the logo is on the sign is like bloody and red, and like, what the hell is going on here?
Could not be farther from that.
No, not at all.
So yeah, I guess we can just hop into this first one. I don't know how much you want to talk about each one of these games, but
I honestly think as much as we can, but how much is that to talk about, really?
Okay, so I'll get started. The way you play this game is you just kind of walk around and you destroy little gifts and little heart vials, and the goal is to get every heart and get to the exit. But certain power-ups kill certain enemies, so you have to find the right ones. There's not one power-up that kills everything.
Correct. And the intention of this, and I think they even say it in the tips before you go into the game, is this is meant for a 2-player experience, so that like one person would have a wheel gun to shoot the cars, and another person would have whatever kills the wizards. And that was the whole intention of you need a second person to make this a playable game.
Yeah, I mean, I will say in general, I liked this game. You know, obviously it's very simple, and I don't want to say it for every game, but so just to say it now, they're all simple games.
It is very archaic graphically and gameplay wise. It's just, that's the time period. So we just got to take it for what it is, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to talk shit and be like, every one of these looks bad. I genuinely like this game. I don't think it's great, but I had a good time, you know. Played it for 10 minutes, and that was it.
Pretty much. The way I was able to like compare it to is Pac-Man, but you have guns.
Kind of.
Because you just have enemies that are chasing you down, more or less.
By that logic, every single game in this whole episode is going to be like Pac-Man.
It is, yeah. I was going to say that too, is through this all 3 volumes we're going to cover today, there are 2 games I'm going to be referencing a lot, and Pac-Man is one of them.
I know which 2 you're talking about already, so.
It's a fun game. I think having different weapons for each enemy is unique. I think that's a cool concept, and it forces you to like really think about what you're going to do, what you're going to get, the paths you're going to take, and it forces you like having a second person to play with, and then it could make it a lot easier on yourself.
Yeah, I hadn't considered that we should play some of these together because I don't think there's very many multiplayer ones. I can't really think of too many other ones off the top of my head.
I remember seeing a few that had like 2 or second player push start to play, but I can't recall what they are off the top of my head.
I just didn't feel like there was enough that it was worth it for us to do that.
Oh, it wasn't, no. This game specifically, it kind of reminds me of Zombies Ate My Neighbor. We played that game on the last show, where if you have 2 players, you have one person collecting one type of weapon, one person collecting another type. That way you guys can deal with every type of enemy that comes towards you pretty much.
If we were both playing, we'd have fun for a little bit, and then that'd be it.
Bit, yeah.
All right, so here's what I want to do. This is not towards anything. This is not towards our numbers. What would you give this game out of 10? Just purely, you know, feel free to give it a low score because it's simple. Like, don't hold back about anything. I don't care if people get mad at us. I mean, we're playing these arcade games almost 40 years after they came out. So
and before I do that, that's an important part to realize is that these are old games. They're not remasters. These are just the old games. So clearly they're not going to hold up. Clearly they're not going to play well. That's a huge consideration to take into everything. But with this, like I said, I love the fact that they force you to think about your decisions. It's not just a run and gun of just taking out everyone with the same pellet gun that you have. Because of that, I think it's a decent game. I would probably go with like a 7.5 just on this alone.
I was also thinking a 7. So
it's taking just a standard concept and just adding more to it. And there's another game we'll get to later on that does this too. And it's just those tiny little things that make it better than what other games were doing at the time.
Yeah, if this game didn't have the unique weapons for enemies, then it would just be a nothing game.
Exactly.
Which we also forgot to talk about this. So in each game, you go to a separate menu and you can adjust the switches. They're called dip switches, by the way, for an arcade machine. And you can kind of change the game to play how you like. You can give yourself more lives, you know, whatever you want to do.
Oh, is that what that was for?
Yeah, as you go through each little thing, you can give yourself more lives. You can even turn off some of the modern stuff. Like you can make it so you can't pause anymore. You can, you know, do all kinds of stuff just to customize the experience and mess around with the game.
Okay. I was very confused and I kind of wasn't reading everything. The main reason I looked up the manual, and this is a perfect segue for this, is because I got stuck into this game, Toy Pop. I couldn't get back out of it, and I couldn't get back to the museum, and I was getting so frustrated.
And then this is how you get out.
Yeah, you have to push triangle to get to this screen and then go to the museum. But I was pushing triangle, so what it is you got to make sure you're done, like you're at the main menu screen or something, and then you can back out to this.
Yeah, the main title screen.
Right. So I didn't know that, and I was getting so frustrated. Had to look up the manual, and that's when I found the fast walking.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I found it by complete accident because I was just pushing buttons at the menu to see if there was anything else.
Oh, and that brings up a good point. For every single one of these games, if you push select, it gives you more continues.
Yeah, essentially, like it's emulating you putting quarters into the machine.
Mm-hmm. So in theory, you never can die. You just keep giving yourself continues, and you can just keep playing the game, which I like. I really like that. We complain all the time about these PlayStation games where they have a continue system for no reason. They have a continue system for a reason, and they fix it for the PlayStation.
Yeah, I typically didn't even really do that either. I would just like try and play it like I would really be playing in an arcade. But I really love that that's there because if you want to brute force a game, you can just do it.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I played it normally, but the fact that they had that option there, if you want to just keep playing to get better at it, is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, all right, so let's move on to the second game here. Bosconian.
Oh, is that how you pronounce it? I'm going to be honest. There's a lot of these titles where either the logo was hard to read, and like I wrote down what I thought it was and just was hoping that I was close.
Well, if you go into the how to play thing, it has the name written there too.
Oh, okay.
To be fair, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I'm just assuming, but it looks right. All right, so this is a space shooter where you have free movement around a map, which was unique for the time, and you can shoot both in front of you and behind you, and your goal is to destroy different little space stations while avoiding enemies and asteroids and stuff.
Was it unique for the time, though? Because wasn't Asteroid out before this?
Yeah, but Asteroids was also incredibly simple even compared to this.
I get that. It just takes that same concept from Asteroid and whatnot of your ship flying around killing things and adds a bit more of a twist to it. I will say trying to hit that center part of the green things felt impossible half the time.
Once you get through like 2 or 3 levels, there's so many enemies on the screen. It's like, and then the space station starts spitting out shots at you while you're trying to figure it out too. So it just gets overwhelming really quick.
I think that's going to be a reoccurring statement.
I mean, the whole point of these things is to take your money. Yep. So,
but not even that. Is just like to get your ship on that exact grid line to shoot up the center to hit the center of the green things. I would often think I was dead center and I wasn't, and I had to like circle back around and try it again.
One of the most annoying things for me with this game was whenever you kill an enemy and they explode, if you touch the explosion, you also die.
Which is another big theme going forward. They were very realistic back in this era of, oh, there's an explosion and it's going to kill you if you're near it too. I like that.
It makes sense, but it doesn't make for a fun game.
No. The biggest thing for me that this game was missing was upgrades.
Yeah, there's no power-ups or anything.
And maybe we just didn't make it far enough. I would expect in the first level, you'd get at least one upgrade to do something better.
Yeah, it's very, very simple. There's really not much more to even say about it. Like,
oh, yeah. That's the entire game is find the green things, destroy them, and survive. Every level I've played was just that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a map. It's somewhat helpful, and there's a voice that will tell you when enemies are coming up on you. There's stuff on the side that says like, oh, there's a formation coming in or you're in danger or whatever. But it's all very, very simple. The only other note I have on it is I do like that enemies' shots can hurt each other. Yeah,
and there's times like they'll be cruising in to take you out and they run into a mine and blow up. That is a very cool feature.
Yeah, it's a very nice touch. And it just, I don't know if that was standard for the time. I don't think that it was. Even now, enemies don't hurt each other in games, which I always found annoying.
Yes. That little timing care that like, oh, if something hurts you, then it should hurt the enemy as well if they're near it. And I like when developers actually take the time to do that.
Yeah, I agree with you. So rough score. What do you think?
I knew that was coming. I think it's a little bit less than the last one just because there's no upgrades or anything. And I do like the free flying around. I think that's pretty cool, but I think this is a 6 for me.
That's my number as well. It's fine. It's not bad. It's not good. It's It gets hard a little too fast, but overall, I don't think it's not either good or bad. It's just there.
Yeah, it really, you can see where they were going with it. It's just, I think if they had upgrades, this would be a really, really cool game.
I agree with you. And I feel like we're going to score the collection as a whole based on like how much we like these games, right? So I think Toy Pop adds value while this really doesn't add or detract value from it, right?
I would agree, yes.
All right, so then that brings us to Rally X.
I was excited about this game just seeing the title. When I got into the game, I was very much not excited.
Yeah, we got our first stinker here.
This is, again, sorry, but this is Pac-Man, but with cars.
I mean, this is literally straight up Pac-Man.
Yes. And also almost like a more unfair version of Pac-Man where the enemies are so much faster than you. So it's not like and it could be the same for Pac-Man, but the ghosts in that, I feel like always go the same speed as you. These people are cruising at you.
So the ghosts are faster than you in Pac-Man, but it's nothing like this.
Okay. And it's like, usually they have a pathing that they follow. It feels like this is just they lock onto where your coordinates are and they are just rushing to get there as fast as possible.
No, that's what it feels like every time. So the goal of this is to collect flags in a maze with your car. There's other cars coming after you going fast as fuck. And you have an attack that you can shoot behind you that will stun them for a second, but that uses your fuel. And if you run out of fuel, you pretty much lose.
Yeah, you're pretty much you're racing against the enemies and your fuel gauge while you're trying to collect these. And the faster you do it, the higher score you get, and that's it.
I really did not like this game.
It was very bad. And there's times where I do like it how if you're driving straight and you don't touch a button, when it hits a wall, it'll automatically turn you into the direction it needs to go.
Yeah.
Thought that was neat up until I died because of that, because I was in a corner and it was like spinning me in circles as I'm fighting the controls trying to go the direction I want to go.
Yeah, and I mean, turning is really the only way to get past enemies because you turn faster than they do, so that's how you would make up your speed.
Yes. Ultimately, this is, compared to the other two we just covered, this is the most simplistic game in this volume, I think.
I would agree with you. I also wanted to bring this up really quick. The music was like scary, right?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing with it is the car sound as well. It kind of gives that droney low note while the music is going over top of it.
It's just like, these guys are going to fucking kill you. You better drive.
Exactly.
So there's also New Rally X, which was the basically upgraded version that came out a year later. That's also included here. I will say I played that a little bit, and that starts off easier. It kind of eases you into it a little better.
But
it's still the same game. I don't know.
Yeah, it looks worse. It sounds worse. The only thing that they improved on was it slowly ramps up in difficulty rather than just jumps right in.
Yeah, I don't think the cars are as fast either.
Right. They did slow those down. But everything else is so much worse. It's just, they just ramped up the neon colors for the walls. The sound effects are bad. The music is bad. It's just like, how is this the new version? This should be the first version.
It's like they took one lesson and then ruined everything else.
Exactly.
Yeah, I really didn't like this game. I'm going to go with a 3.
Are you doing it for like both as a 3?
Yeah.
I would agree.
Okay.
If anything, I would say 3 is for the first one, and then the second one is almost like a 2.5.
I feel like they even each other out, honestly, but it's not really important.
Easily the worst one in this collection.
Completely agree. So that brings us to Pac-Man.
Do we have anything to really say about this?
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows how to play Pac-Man. I literally in my notes wrote, it's Pac-Man.
That is all I said is Pac-Man. Classic. That's all it is.
So I'll say this. In hindsight, after playing 3 versions of Pac-Man across these 3 collections, the original one is the worst version of Pac-Man.
I would disagree with you on that.
I think Miss Pac-Man is easily 5 times better than Pac-Man.
Oh, I agree with you on that. I don't think this is the worst, though.
I think Super Pac-Man at least adds some more interesting things to it. I'm not saying Pac-Man is bad. I just think that by mixing it up a little bit, it makes it better because this is the same thing every time. It's the same exact map every time. Things just get faster and slightly harder. That's it.
I was going to ask you about that because I played through a few and the map never changed. So I was like, what am I doing wrong? is there any other map I need to do?
So they added that in Miss Pac-Man, but in Pac-Man 1, there is no other map.
Okay. Interestingly enough, the Pac-Man world of before you get to the game, I felt like was always the most detailed.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah. It was always like going in and just seeing the giant Pac-Man house. I was like, oh, this is hilarious. And then it gets really weird later on in the other volumes.
Oh, I got some stuff to say about the Miss Pac-Man room for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's Pac-Man. I don't really have anything else to say about it.
We really can't say anything. I do disagree that this is the worst one. I think this is decent.
I mean, I'm still going to give this an 8.
Yeah, it's... I probably wouldn't go... I'd say 7.5 on this one too. Because there's only one level, it's... okay, come on, there could have been more. But for what it is, there's nothing more to say. It's just a simple game. It's fun and...
You're right, a 7.5 is the right answer, by the way. You're right. I was getting a little crazy there.
I think there is strategy to it, right? Like, the ghosts follow a specific pathing. So if you remember the pathing, you're good, right?
Yeah, you can kind of like make quick turns or like go certain ways to get away from them. But I was never really super good at Pac-Man. I had a Pac-Man collection for Game Boy Advance I used to play as a kid. But overall, I mean, it's Pac-Man.
Yeah.
All right, so our next game is Galaga, another classic.
Yeah, and this will be the other reoccurring game mentioned throughout these volumes. I never actually got to play Galaga like the original. Did you? Prior to this?
I played it at Dave & Buster's, like I was saying, but other than that, I really haven't.
Okay.
I think there was also certain games, like Namco games, that had it like before the game starts as a loading screen.
Yeah.
Remember we played a game that had that? I forget which one it was.
Tekken.
Yeah. But this is actually a sequel to Galaxian.
Oh, okay. I never did that.
Which we will get to on Volume 2, I believe.
Volume 3, yeah. Well, okay, that makes a lot more sense then, but didn't know there's a sequel. Again, there's no upgrades for this. I feel like just that concept didn't exist for upgrading things back then.
I mean, there were power-ups in other games, but I think Galaga is fine. Like, I don't love or hate this. It's fine.
My introduction to these types of games, as I think most people were back in the day, was Space Invaders.
Yeah.
And that's just this game, but with features that this doesn't have.
I mean, I would say this is better than that for sure.
You think so?
Graphics are better. The enemies fly around instead of just moving back and forth slowly. There's more you have to worry about.
I'm talking about like an upgraded version, not the OG Space Invaders.
Well, that's what we have to compare this to because nothing else was out. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, I know. I'm just saying for me personally, I started playing Space Invaders, but an upgraded version of that down the road, not the original one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, compared to the original Space Invaders anyway, this is much better. But I don't know. I don't really love this game. I mean, I know it's a classic, but...
It goes back to what we've been saying is there's more or less just like one level, like nothing changes. But I think we can say that about every single game we're about to talk to. It's just, here's your main thing you're doing, and you're doing this the entire time.
Yeah, I think playing this for about 10, 15 minutes, I could never play it again, and I would feel I saw all I needed to see, and even that is a lot.
I do kind of hate how you can't just rapid fire if you push the button faster.
Another common theme we're going to be dealing with today.
Yep. It was just a pain to... You're just limited on your shots, so you're just like, all right, well, here I am just trying to slowly get through all these enemies.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to go with a 7 on this one. Maybe a 6.5, actually.
Yeah, I was thinking more of a 6 for me. Just, again, there's nothing to... You're just shooting at things up on the top of the screen. The other two games that we talked about have at least more variety on how you could play the game. This is just a straight push X and move, and that's it.
Yeah.
So that's why it's a little bit lower, but it is a classic. It spawned other games in this genre because of this. So
yeah, I agree with you. All right, so then the final game in this collection is Pole Position.
Instantly, probably my favorite in this volume.
Really?
It's up there. Between that and Pac-Man, those are my two highest, I think.
I didn't really like this game very much.
Okay. So why?
So the gimmick here is you're supposed to slow down around turns, right?
No.
Well, because you switch between high speed and low speed. That's the whole point of that, right?
Oh, maybe. That's not the way I played it.
Well, on the how-to, the tips, it says the game is about figuring out when to brake to get around turns correctly. I mean, I, most of the time, would just go full speed and then just do my best. But
Interesting. Okay. That might have made things a little bit easier for me. The way I played it was just whenever you go around turns, there is just a position you need to be in. Like the first time I played, I held the left or right button and I just crashed because he flew off the screen.
Oh, yeah.
The way that this is set up is just like we've been talking about. There's a grid. So you kind of like move one to the right, and then that's like your slight turn right. And then you move one more grid over, and that's your more aggressive right turn.
But like once you have other people on the track, you can't really do that.
Yeah, it's more or less like whenever there's other people, I would start low and kind of work my way up high to try to dodge around people.
Yeah.
I will say it did take me a long time. I probably should have looked at the how-to because it took me like 3 attempts to get through qualifying because I just kept losing.
Oh, me too. Yeah. I mean, it's just a hard game to get used to.
And just the shifting, I didn't realize there's a high gear. So the instant I realized there's high, I was able to actually play the game correctly.
Yeah, I also think the graphics look really good for the time.
Yeah, it's like that faux 3D. It's really, really cool. But sorry for being a repetitive, a broken record on this one. One track is all you get.
That is pretty ridiculous. I mean, we're going to talk about the sequel later, which fixes a lot of the stuff we're about to say, probably. But one track, I just get sick of it pretty soon. I mean, I guess you can master it for sure. You know, you spend all your time getting really good at it. But how many times are you going to play the same damn track?
I think it's just one of those things that it's all about the score. You're trying to do the best run you can to get the highest score to be on top of the leaderboard. Ultimately, that's what all these games came out to be. So because it's just one track, who cares? You're just trying to get that fast time.
Yeah, and this was also played with a wheel in the arcade too, which probably would have made it way more fun.
That would be cool. More fun, but also probably more difficult, I would imagine.
It would just probably feel more realistic.
That's true.
You know, you feel like you're actually struggling to get around the corner, not just like you said, finding the right position and just staying there.
Mm-hmm. I could see that. But ultimately, like after about 10 minutes of this, it gets boring pretty fast.
Yeah, I agree with you there. So I don't know. I didn't really have a great time with this. I think it's one of the lower ones for me. So I'm going to go with a 5.5.
I was thinking, even though I said it was one of my favorite to play, I do agree it is a 5.5 as well.
All right.
I mean, it was fun, but I recognize for what it is. It's not that great, but it was a fun breakup from the rest of the games we were playing.
I hear you. It was a nice driving game because the other driving game here is fucking trash.
Yes, exactly.
What's funny is like we've been giving these scores and I said they don't mean anything, but in my brain, the rough average of all these is probably what I'm going to give it anyway.
I was just thinking that as we're getting closer to that time.
Well, all right. So let me read. I got one review for each of these. I'm not going to be reading 6 reviews today. So reviews for Volume 1 were mostly good. I mean, for all the reasons we said, museum's great. It has some true classics on here, you know, a couple stinkers, but overall, I would say it's pretty good. Computer and Video Games Magazine gave Volume 1 an 84 out of 100 and said, old people who used to play the original should get this straight away as it'll provide hours of gaming and hours of nostalgia. Everyone else should consider it as it's a novel idea and a great selection of games.
And I think they should add into that, and it probably does in the review of just the history, getting to read about the time.
So that brings us to our scores. I don't know if I'm going to change my scores as we go here because like it's tough.
It is.
But I think I'm going to go with a 6.5 on this. I think there's some really good games. There's some stinkers, like I said. The museum's great. It all kind of evens out. I think 6.5.
I'll just get this out of the way. I was also going with the 6.5. My thinking behind it was, yeah, the collection is nice. You have Galaga, Pac-Man, that kind of does the heavy lifting in this whole thing. But I was also taking into account the museum fact or portion of it too. All the loading times hurt it a lot. And since like this whole gimmick is, oh, you get to walk around a museum of these games, having to sit through those loading screens is just really, really annoying. But yeah, I agree. 6.5 is a good number for this.
All right. So what ties do we got here? Oh, we got plenty.
Oh yeah, that's our favorite ranking as of lately. So we have Diver's Dream, Power Shovel, Jammer Lammy, Blitz, all the Blitz games we did, and Cooler World.
My instinct is to put it between Blitz and Cooler World.
I have no problem with that. I was going to say just the bottom just because of what it is, but I'm fine with that too.
I don't really care either way.
I can't argue.
Yeah.
Cool. So this will be Volume 1 is number 25 or 26.
All right. Well, let's take a quick second here and then we'll hop into Volume 2. Namco Museum Volume 2 was released less than 3 months later on October 25th, 1996.
Obviously not that hard to believe because it's the exact same museum layout and they just swapped out the games.
Yeah, this one is almost exactly the same as the first one as far as the museum goes. And one thing we forgot to bring up with the first one, which I just want to bring up real quick, is the opening cutscenes are very cool.
Oh yeah, we completely missed that. I think the first one was okay. Second one, they definitely ramp it up a lot and they add a lot more detail, which I really like.
Yeah, it's just a big compilation of characters from all the games doing different things. It's very cool. I thought it was a nice touch and it really brings the whole thing together. It gets you in the mood.
Also, I'm now realizing we forgot to bring up this. If you never set up a profile in the beginning, I saw you did on yours. I didn't. Whenever you go into a game, it says, hey, you don't have a profile set up to save your game. If you want to save your game, go back and see the attendant, which I thought was a really neat little feature of, oh, okay, you got to walk back to the front desk to talk to the person to make a profile.
They really take it seriously. Like it's actually a place that exists. And I do love that.
I guess this is something new. Well, not new, but this is something we didn't talk about either, was the lounge. Did you go into that at all?
Yeah, I did. It's cool. I mean, it shows you your game time for everything. And I believe it also shows you a complete list of every game Namco ever made.
Which was really cool to see. Of like, it was impressive too. They put out a lot of games each year.
And they did update it as these came out as well, which was cool.
Also, they have like these magazine covers and stuff from magazines back in the day introducing these things. It's a huge nostalgic, historic collection. And I love it.
No, I think that stuff is one of the main reasons why you would get this. Like, you love the history, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, we're jumping back into these games here.
Yeah.
First up, we have Mappy.
Which I think is one of the, aside from Pac-Man, was the next mascot, right?
Yeah, apparently. I've never heard of him.
Me neither. But this was the room whenever I walked in and saw like this mansion with the cats and everything moving on top. That's what made me realize that the rooms are different and made me go back to the first game to look at all the new ones.
Yeah, the rooms are a lot more detailed this time, which is cool.
Way more detailed.
One of the best parts about it is just getting into each room and looking at what they've done. Like, imagine this coming out now and doing it in VR or something, looking around. That'd be so sick.
Oh, I think if this came out now, it would have to be VR. That's the only way to do this one.
Getting to walk around like a virtual museum would be so cool. I'd be surprised if that doesn't exist. I wish it does.
It might. Something to look into.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Mappy is a detective or a police mouse, and you just have these burglar cats that are chasing you through each level.
Yeah, the gimmick with this one is you have to jump up and down these trampolines and control which platform you go to.
Which took me a while to figure out.
Me too, as you're seeing my footage right now. There's no way to attack them unless you open up certain doors, and that throws an attack out and doesn't kill them, I don't think. I think it just pushes them away.
Yeah, attack is a heavy word there. You are just simply moving them out of the way so you can continue in the level.
Yeah, to beat the level, you have to get all the stolen items.
What's nice is when you're on the trampoline, you're invincible. So if you have and these enemies stack up fast. So if you have a lot of enemies, you can just keep bouncing until you find your timing to get away from them. And they can never hurt you, even though they're on the same trampoline, which is nice. I like that.
Yeah, this game would be unplayable if they hurt you when you're on the trampoline.
Although it gets almost unplayable immediately by like level 2.
It does get hard really quick.
It's to the point where I had like 3 people bouncing with me and hiding, or like if I would go onto a platform, it follows your every move. So you can't just be like, oh, they're going to go on this platform so I can go on this one. No, the instant your foot touches a platform, they're all going onto that one to chase you down.
Seems like a lot of these old games were like that, with following your exact movements and just being right on you.
And it's just so rough. The biggest thing is the bigger cat. I forget what his name was. But I noticed whenever you're watching him run around, you can't, or he'll hide behind objects. Did you notice that?
I didn't.
So, like, there's I don't know, is that a safe or something? I noticed he would be like running and he'd stop behind the safe, so you don't know he's actually there. So you got to pay attention to where he's at all times on the map, because he could be hiding behind something and waiting for you to come by to grab you.
I do like that the enemies are not faster than you, though.
Not faster, they just overwhelm you so fast.
I don't know. I think the common theme with the first collection was that the enemies are just so much faster than you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I get that.
But yeah, I didn't like this game. It got old really quick. I'm going to go with a 4.
I thought it was unique in a sense. It did get old very fast. I do agree. I would just say it's a 5. There could have been a lot more improvement onto it, but it takes a while to get used to. And at the end of the day, it's just, like we said, it's overwhelming way too fast.
Yeah, I mean, there's just not a lot to it. And like you've been saying with a lot of these, there's nothing that changes. There's no power-ups. There's nothing. Like, it'd be cool if you could just pick up a weapon that was even like a few hits to just like help you. And it wasn't literally just the opening doors.
Yeah. If you could like have a bat baton or something to just hit them with, that'd be cool.
It literally looks like he's carrying one. That's what I thought it was.
Yep. I died so many times because I thought I could hit them. Nope.
But yeah, I think next up we have the, in my opinion, best game in this collection, Dragon Buster.
I would agree. The instant I saw the map and how we played, I knew you were going to love this one.
Don't get me wrong, it's still really simple and kind of shitty, but there's just a lot more going on. If this is the one of the few games in this whole episode that I feel like feels like a real game almost.
Mm-hmm. It's not one of those, just quickly jump in and quickly get out. I love the room, how like creepy it is, and all the like the dragon poking his head through it. It's almost like an early roguelike in a sense.
I mean, yeah, I guess. Aren't all arcade games roguelites because you just have to start over?
Okay, that's true. Yes. But it's just in the theming of it, of moving about this map. You get to make decisions, which is the first out of all these volumes we've had.
Yeah, there's just like you choose where you want to go. There's different enemies you have to fight. I believe the exit is random where it could be, right?
That's what I gathered. It's just you have to find the enemy that you have to kill to open the exit. And that could be any enemy that you encounter. Sometimes you find it fast. Sometimes you're going for a while.
Yeah, and I feel like the scrolling doesn't feel right. Like it feels weird.
The scrolling feels weird. The jumping feels weird. The fighting feels weird.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it just feels bad to play mostly. I mean, like these skeleton enemies can just rock your shit so easily.
So the first level I did, the skeleton was fine. All the preceding levels after that, they destroyed me. Every time I couldn't get close, and I'm like, am I missing a concept here? I'm swinging my sword, but my sword's not hitting him, but he's able to just throw me against the wall and I can't do anything.
They can also like chain attacks on you so you can't move.
Same with the dragon too. Well, not the baby dragon. There's sometimes you get into a room and it'll rush you and push you into the wall with this fire. And you're like, oh, I'm stuck here now.
Yeah. And also the game gets really annoying really fast. Cause like once you get a few like worlds into it, there starts being enemies on the floor running around. There's things constantly spawning. There's wizards. It's like, before you know it, it's typical arcade bullshit where they want you to just spend more money.
Yeah. Just like what we talked about in the last volume. It's, you kind of got the hang of it. All right, now here's 50 million enemies that are going to come after you. It's just standard.
Now, I could be wrong on this. I don't know for a fact, but if there was a home port of this, like on the NES or something, I bet it's way better.
Oh, I would agree. The hitboxes are weird of where your hitbox is and where the enemy's hitboxes is, and that causes conflict of you running into the enemy and getting hurt a lot, and it is frustrating. But overall, I love the theming of it. I love the vibe that this has.
I agree. I had a lot of fun playing this until it got annoying. I was like, wow, I might try and like get pretty far into this. And then, immediately they're like, no, you're not. I thought this was fun. Probably, like I said, the most fun on this. So I'm going to go with a 7.5.
I was going to say that same exact number. Yeah. I think if the combat was a little bit better, this would be a lot higher. And that's really what hurts it the most is the combat.
At its core, it's just too simple. I mean, that's going to be the issue with a lot of these, but for what they're going for, like you can obviously tell what they wanted to do, and I think it's pretty good.
I agree. So now next up is, in my opinion, the worst Pac-Man game.
Really?
I hated this one so much.
I liked it.
All right, so what did you like about it?
I liked that there's more going on. There's more that you have to think about. Just getting the keys to open the doors or getting the big pellets to turn into Super Pac-Man, or you can destroy the doors, destroy everything. If you get Super Pac-Man, then you keep collecting the regular power pellets. You can continue staying a Super Pac-Man. So some of the earlier levels, you can kind of just power your way through it very easily.
I get that.
It just feels like there's more to do, there's more to think about than regular Pac-Man.
And I get that. I do think the getting bigger and breaking through and not having to get the keys is nice. I think the keys itself just hurt the game a lot. Having to unlock your pathing to get to places just seems like they're trying too hard to make it different.
I hear you. I mean, what else can you do with Pac-Man, right?
Exactly. There's really not much more you can do, but that's why I can understand where you're coming from. But at the same time, it's like, well, you could have tried something different. It's a good second take, I would say.
To be fair, I don't think this is significantly better than Pac-Man. I just like it a little bit more. But I think that could also just be because I've played Pac-Man before.
This is true. Because you've never heard of this one, right?
No, I've never played this.
Yeah, same. So I think that's a big thing of like, this is just so different. The levels, there's actually more than one, so I can give it credit for that. I don't know. I just think, although there's a lot of creative ideas here, it's also frustrating and not good at the same time.
No, I hear you. Making something more complex doesn't always make it better.
But I can see like they wanted to make something different. I get that. And I forget what I gave the last Pac-Man. Do you remember?
We both gave it a 7.5, so I was going to go with an 8 for this.
Oh, okay. I was thinking this is like 6.5 for me. I just didn't like it.
I just like it slightly better, but at the end of the day, it's really not a big deal either way.
Which I get your perspective entirely.
All right, so next up we have Xevious, which is the worst game in this collection.
I don't know. I feel like it's a toss-up with these last three on which one's the worst.
For me, I had no question in my mind that this was the worst one.
So what did you not like about this? Because to me, this is just Galaga, but you get to shoot the ground as well.
I just think this is incredibly boring.
It is quite boring.
Like there's just nothing really going on. Like at least in Galaga, things are flying, things are constantly moving. This is like you're just doing the same thing over and over again. It's not necessarily hard either. Like I literally killed myself at the end because I didn't want to keep playing it anymore.
So how far did you make it in this one?
I have no fucking idea. I just kept playing.
Well, okay, so there's a point for me where I got to these giant metal plates flying at me. Did you get those?
I don't think I made it that far, honestly.
Oh, okay. And like you can't kill the metal plates. So it's more or less you're dodging them while you're trying to attack the ground because the ground people are shooting at you now. I don't know. It was an interesting take. I get what they were trying to do, but I do agree it just is so repetitive. And I think this one has bad sound effects, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
There's another one too. I can't remember what it was. There's like one of the games that was just ear-piercingly bad sound effects. And it might have been this one, but I can't remember.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily want to like talk shit on this game. I just think it's like it's whatever. Like it's so nothing to me that I don't like it or hate it. It's just whatever. There was nothing about it that stood out, good or bad. It's just boring. And that's, to me, the worst thing you can say about anything.
I can agree. And it just goes back to, hey, we've done the shooter where you're stationary. We've done the shooter where you can move around in space. So what about one where you can shoot on the ground too? I can see the logic behind why they wanted to do it. Does it land? No. But I understand why they tried it.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a very mid-space shooter. So what can you really say about it? Like, I guess it is cool that it's not in space, actually. That it's like on Earth.
Yeah, I guess.
I just mean it's not just a fucking black screen, you know?
True.
But other than that, I don't really have anything notable to say about it. So
no.
I'm going to go with like a 5.
I was thinking 5.5.
Which I gave Mappy a worse score, which I would probably change that, but these scores don't matter, so I'm not going to. So next we have, is it Gapless?
That's the way I would pronounce it.
And this is the sequel to Galaga.
Oh, okay. Well, this is all making a lot more sense now.
Yeah, so Galaxian is the one before Galaga, and this is the one after.
Oh, okay. Well, that is... my biggest thought was, how are they making all these games that are exactly the same? And I didn't actually look into the history of it, but okay, that makes a lot more sense.
But yeah, I don't really know how much more there is to say about this one either, because it's just faster Galaga.
That's what I have in my notes. Fast-paced Galaga, and that's all it is. The enemies are just chaotic as hell. Just spinning all over the screen, flying around like, holy hell, is this on crack?
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I mean, it's definitely harder. There's more going on. Like, you have to think more for sure. I think it's definitely better than Galaga.
Yeah, it feels better. You shoot faster. I still don't think there's upgrades, but I think in this one you can move up and down too, right?
Can you?
Maybe. I can't
I
remember.
didn't try.
With all these different space fighters, I don't know which ones did what.
I don't even think it fucking matters, honestly.
It doesn't.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't really have much more to say about it unless you got anything else.
There's really no. There's just Galaga. That's all it is.
I also forget what I gave Galaga. I think I might have gave it a 7, so I'm going to go with a 7.5 then.
Yeah, I'll agree because I don't remember either. But this is slightly better than whatever the score we gave for Galaga was. We should have wrote all these down as we were going.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. These scores mean nothing. So that brings us to our last game, Grobda.
I was wondering how you were going to pronounce this because I couldn't figure it out either.
Grobda is what stuck out to me, but I like this game. I think it's pretty fun.
I was pretty bored by it, to be honest.
I mean, it's definitely boring, but like, you play as a tank, you're shooting other tanks, you have a shield to block their attacks. Their explosions hurt you again, like we bitched about earlier, but that's the game.
Pretty much. And it's not even the weirdest thing to me is that they have a what was it, the health bar or energy bar or something?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's one hit, one kill. Why do you have an energy bar?
I think that's for your shield.
Oh, so every time you use your shield, it uses some of your energy.
I believe so.
That would make sense. Because every time I got hit once and it emptied out, I'm like, what was the point of that health? I didn't need it.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much have to use the shield or else you'll just die immediately.
Immediately is the key word there. In the very first level, the first time I played, I was like, oh, cool, I'm dead. Okay, let's try that again because they just all turn and shoot at you at the exact same time.
Yeah, I don't know. I just had some fun with this. I don't really know why. I just genuinely enjoyed it for a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's like everything else here. It gets old quick.
And now looking at your screen, I didn't even think about putting up your shield and shooting at the same time so you could be right next to the people.
Yeah. I mean, that's what makes it fun is like just using your shield to destroy everybody. But I mean, this is the same thing you've been saying too, where there's no really power-ups, nothing really changes. There's more enemies. The map changes up a little bit, but at the end of the day, it is what it is.
It's an early tank fighter. It's interesting, but not fun for me at all.
I had some fun with it, so I'm going to go with a 6.
Yeah, I was thinking about a 5.5 or a 6 for me. This could have been more. Could have been more upgrades or something, but wasn't as bad. Even though I was bored by it, it wasn't terrible.
All right, so let me read this review. The review started to dip a little bit for Volume 2 because it was literally the exact same thing with not really other changes besides the games.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I'm assuming the fact that it came out so soon after the other one.
Yeah.
I believe they came out farther apart in Japan. It's just when they brought them to America, they were just like shitting them out because they could. Now Gamer gave it a 7 out of 10 and said, older gamers may well consider this a bargain, but it's a shame that some of the games don't have much lasting appeal. Apart from the 2 shooters, the others only merit a few goes before they become boring or too difficult.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, whatever.
So I'm torn on this one for the score because, okay, at the same time, the museum is exactly the same. So it really comes down to the game collection within it. And for me, like all the games don't have that innovative feature to it like we saw in the first volume, like the different weapons you can choose from or all that stuff. The only thing giving this a saving grace for me is Dragon Buster. Like that's so unique and so different that I feel like that is doing the workload for this whole series or for this whole volume. But I'm questioning, is this exact or does it help the game? Like, does that one game help the rest of the game?
So I have my score locked and loaded, so do your thing.
Okay. I think that the Dragon Buster can't really provide that much support. I think it's exactly the same of a 6.5.
So I'm actually going to go 0.5 lower. I was thinking a 6 on this because the museum doesn't change at all. They didn't improve the loading times. Yeah, the rooms are cooler, but like other than that, the interface overall has really not improved. And I would say there's more stinkers on this one than the other, but there are, Dragon Buster is better than any game on either collection, I would say, so far.
Yes.
Besides maybe Pac-Man, I guess.
Yeah, it's hard to go against Pac-Man because of how classic of a game that is.
Yeah. I liked a few of these games, like I said, but there was a few that I just thought were not good and a few that were just whatever. So, Yeah, I think a 6.
Okay. So that gives us a 6.25. That's fair. Just slightly underneath the other one.
Yeah.
That ties us with Crash Bandicoot and Crisis Beat. I think this is at the bottom.
Absolutely.
All right. So with that, we are at 30. Can you believe that this got higher than Persona 1?
That's kind of fucked up if you think about it, but
It kind of is.
all right, we're running really long this one. Let's go ahead and hop into Volume 3. Namco Museum Volume 3 was released 7 months after Volume 2 on May 27th, 1997. And right off the bat, like, this game is so much of an upgrade.
100%. It looks nicer. They took out the loading times. Everything feels more unique into each room. I'm like, just going into them, like, I'm so glad they didn't just do a copy paste from the last two.
If this was a copy paste, I think the scores would have even went lower.
Probably, yes.
Everything looks great. Music, my first note here is vibes are off the charts.
Yes.
It's just an amazing experience walking through and seeing the rooms and seeing everything. It's the fact that the loading screens are so much lower. It really improves it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Makes you want to look at everything.
Yeah, I mean, don't get us wrong. Loading screens are still there, but just a lot slower or a lot faster. Sorry.
Yeah, and they got rid of the lounge, but there's this like theater where you can go look at stuff with all the characters from the games there. I thought that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Just so many little loving touches that you can tell they really cared about doing this justice, and that I really appreciate that.
I think it was okay. We did the same thing twice. Now we need to really do something different for this next one. My biggest complaint is going through the doors. I'd be standing up against the door and like, why can I not go through? And it's there because the trigger was like a pixel to the right or something.
It also feels like the doors are the loading screens now, and they are a little long for what they are.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't know. You're not going to a new screen. You're just waiting for the door. It sucks, but I don't know. Something about seeing a loading screen coming up just sucks.
No, I mean, I agree with you. It's definitely improved. So for our first game, we have Pole Position 2.
We're back with the second racing game.
So what did you think about this? Because you really, really liked the first one.
I wouldn't say really. I thought it was more fun because of the games it was put with.
Hey, you said it was the best one in the first collection. That's why I figured you liked it.
Along with Pac-Man.
Yeah.
I remember whenever I walked into this room for this game, I was like, holy hell, I love this production. Like, you have the car sideways. Like, this feels like a real museum because of this. Like, I loved it.
I loved the little sign that said staff keep out. Like,
I tried to go through it.
Me too. Yeah, they just really went all in on the museum vibe, and it really makes you feel immersed in it. Like, even for a PS1 game, you know?
That's why I would love to see this nowadays with the graphics we can pull off. It would be so cool to see what we could do with that.
Totally agree.
But when you get into the game, also, I might have to put up a flashing warning. There's a few of these games that have like a lot of flashes. So I need to remember to do that for the video version. But when you get to the game, nothing's different. It's literally the first game, except now you have 3 other maps along with the first one.
I would say the graphics are a little better, and the graphics are varied with the tracks. It's not just like a new track with the same background. I think that gives it a little bit of a unique feel for each one, but like you said, the gameplay is exactly the same. I don't know if there's any difference at all.
I didn't notice anything with handling or speed. It just literally, here's your track, now race on it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really like the first one, and I don't really like this one, so.
Yeah, and I will say, with even the second one now, with the collection we have coming up with it, this is not the great, like, this wasn't as fun the second time around. And I actually would have been mad, like, getting this game or going and playing this game to only realize it's literally what I already played.
Yeah, I wouldn't say this is the worst in the collection, but it's definitely near the bottom.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a 5. I think that's where I'm kind of sitting.
I would just give it whatever I gave the first one. I can't remember, but I'll go with you on a 5 because that sounds right.
Yeah, I guess I would just say the same thing. Whatever I give the first one. It's not very good, but it's also not, aggressively bad or anything. So next we have Fozon.
This was such an interesting game.
I really like this game.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if it was because of how unique it is compared to everything else we played today, but all it is like, hey, here's a shape in the middle of the screen. Here's things flying around. Grab the things and make the shape. Very basic concept, but very fun.
Yeah, and if you accidentally put one on you, you push a button and you fling it off. Like, I I really had a good time. I would have kept playing it if I didn't like want to move on.
It gets pretty frustrating sometimes whenever you get to the point where you have to, okay, you build up a second layer on the outside to make a giant X, and then you got to get those like protons in the middle. And so like you really have to be precise to not get it caught on any of the other pieces. That part was a little frustrating to me.
That, and then the enemies start shooting these shots that will knock them off.
Yep. That was very frustrating.
I don't know, but if this is on phones, like I would totally play this on my phone.
I could see this being a perfect mobile game. And you could do so much more with it now to make it more unique through every single level.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a simple concept of just build a shape, but it works somehow.
I think this is like one of the best games in the collection.
I could agree. Even though it kind of does get very repetitive, I think it's just the simplicity behind it that is really cool.
Yeah, and I mean, like we're saying, like all the games become repetitive eventually. I mean, by nature, that's what they are. They're arcade games. They're not changing in significant ways. They're just getting harder. But yeah, I think I'm going to go with an 8 on this.
Yeah, I would agree with an 8. I would do that too. But another really positive thing, whenever you get to the bonus level, you can rapid fire the hell out of that gun.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can use X and circle to shoot, probably square too. But I was doing X and circle, like double tapping as fast as I can, like I'm drumming. And it's just a constant wave of bullets.
A lot of games in these collections could have used that. That's for sure.
Oh, imagine how much more fun Galaga would have been, or any of the shooters, if you could just shoot as fast as you can push the button.
It's so funny because the shooting in this feels the most satisfying out of any game in any of these collections. But it's not even a game about shooting.
Nope. It's the best shooter of a game that's built around building shapes.
But yeah, no, I really liked it. And that's more than I can say about this next game, which I very much did not like, called The Tower of Druaga.
I will say the room that you go into is really, really cool.
Oh, probably one of the coolest of them all.
Just this towering giant thing that has these swords. Even the museum part of it is like these cavey or like a temple thing that you have to walk through to get to the gaming area.
I was getting excited.
I loved it. And then you get into the game and you're like, what did I just get into?
Yeah, I mean, straight up, this game fucking sucks. I did not like it at all.
It looks so nice leading up to this point, and it's just so disappointing.
Well, like for this and for Dragon Buster, in the how to play thing, they call them action RPGs.
Weird.
So like when they called this that, I was like, all right, maybe it's going to be like Dragon Buster and I'm going to really like it. But no.
The main concept with this game is you have to literally go around a maze to find a key, and then you have to then go through the maze some more to find the exit door.
Yeah, and to attack, you have to hold your sword out. You can't like just push it.
How long did it take you to figure that out?
A little bit. Yeah. Until I died a couple times.
I kept trying to smack the slimes with the sword and just kept dying.
Well, that and like the other enemies that like shoot stuff at you, you have to keep your shield up. And I was like, is there a button for your shield? And it's like, no, you just can't have your sword out and then you're blocking.
Yeah, the wizards, when they shoot electricity at you, there was one that popped up behind me and it like just shot me in the back. I'm like, all right, that was fun. So now I know not to do that anymore.
I really wanted to like this because of, like we said, the stuff leading up to it was so cool. And the vibe of this is good. It's just actually playing it sucks.
If they had a faster movement speed, probably that would be cool. I don't know. It turns into what was the other game called? Dragon Buster, where like the first few levels are good, but then it just gets to the point where you're doing the same thing, but now here's 800 enemies at you at the same time.
Yeah, I don't think this holds a candle to Dragon Buster, in my opinion.
No, not at all.
So, really didn't like this. I'm going to go with a 3.
Yeah. It could have just been like, make the movement speed faster, do something more. It could have been a lot better. I would say like a 3.5, but not.
If you moved a little bit faster and you had like Zelda combat, then we'd be in.
Ooh, that would make it so much. Oh, so 3.5, I would agree with you on the 3, but I went 3.5 because this is the first game that I've noticed so far, at least, that has procedural levels. And I really love that they do that.
Okay. You know what? I'll agree with you. 3.5.
It's not something very common in these games. So the fact that I died once and I got back into level 1 and it was different, I'm like, ooh, okay. Now it's just not a memory game at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's something cool. I hear you. So now we have the worst game in this collection, Galaxian.
Which it makes a lot more sense now that this was a prequel to Galaga. Okay, first of all, I'm going to keep saying this for this whole volume. Getting into the game area, amazing. Like,
the room is amazing.
You're on like this giant elevator, and at first it looks plain, and you're like, oh, okay. I mean, maybe they just didn't put a lot more time. Then things start lighting up, and then all this shit just starts popping up on the screen, and like things happening, and like, this is amazing.
They really went all in on this, and I love it.
It's so weird to me that the rooms itself are more enjoyment than the game.
For the most part, I would agree.
So I pretty much threw my hands up in the air whenever I got into this game. I'm like, really, we're doing this for a third time. A third time we had to do this. And it's worse. It's the worst experience out of all the other ones we had to do.
I was actually going to say this is the worst game out of the entire 3 collections we played.
Ooh, even worse. It probably is worse than Rally X, yeah.
So the main problem is that your shot is super narrow and it just goes in between the enemies most of the time.
Every single time it goes through the enemies. It was so hard to hit any shot. And you have to wait for your projectile to either disappear off the screen or hit an enemy before you get another projectile.
Ridiculous, dude. I didn't even notice that. But like, I don't know, the fact that they don't fly in like Galaga either, and they're just there and they go back and forth slowly and you can't fucking hit them because you shoot between them. This was the only game from this whole episode where I struggled to play for more than a minute. I was like, this sucks.
It really does. And I'm trying so hard not to laugh like really hard at this because I'm watching your gameplay and you're doing the exact same thing I was doing. Just like threading the needle of what seems like an impossible gap, but you're consistently doing it over and over again.
I just don't understand how it happens. It's just such a huge oversight. Like, make the fucking shot a square or something. Like, why?
But it makes sense to why now the other 2 games felt better compared to this.
I will give them credit. You know, each one got exponentially better in my opinion. So
yes. I honestly think this should have been on volume 1, and then you should have worked through the timeline of these games, not let's start with 2, then 3, then 1.
Well, I think they wanted to come out strong with the first one, which makes sense.
Probably, yeah.
But I'm going to go with a 2 on this.
Yes. I was going to say that too. It's 100% a 2.
Just, man, all right. Well, it was a relief when we got to the next game, which was Miss Pac-Man.
Again, world is amazing with the Pac-Man world. I love how they copied over from volume 2 with the house.
Did you find Pac-Man taking a shit?
I did, yes. First of all, not even that. You walk in and you're presented with like a dog and a Miss Pac-Man with super long legs, no clothes. They're just dancing around. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then you do the toilet and it's
just toilet written on the wall. And then you get in there and Pac-Man just taking a shit. He's really upset that you walked in on him.
Oh my God. It was great.
I loved this. I love the Pac-Man dog too. We should have had a Pac-Man dog game. That would have been sick.
That would have been cool. I realized the instant I got into this game, once the music started for the first level, that this was, because I thought I played the original Pac-Man. I played this one so much as a kid.
I had the same thing because this is like the way better version of Pac-Man.
It is. In terms of gameplay, it's pretty much the same thing. You're just Pac-Man with a bow on your head. But levels change. I think you have to get through 2 of them and then you move to the next level.
It also moves, I would say, substantially quicker.
Yes. And it just, we didn't even talk about this on the first one. With the first Pac-Man, I felt like when a turn was coming up, I had to preemptively hit the turn to take it. And it felt weird. This one felt more responsive of, here's the turn, I'm going to turn immediately.
Yeah, this game feels great to play. Like, I love this game. And I would have kept playing it, honestly.
I remember as a kid, I made it like very far into this game. Like, if you put in the hours, this is a very fun game. And the level of variety and how difficult some of them get is crazy.
But yeah, I love this. I love this way more than Pac-Man. I'm going to go with a 9 on this.
I was hoping to beat you to it and get my score up first. But yes, I was going to say 9. The level of variety alone and being able to just have so much more you can do in this game. I love it.
All right. Well, that brings us to our final game and another banger, Dig Dug.
I played this so much as a kid on my computer. Never had it on like console or never played in an arcade, but computer, nonstop playing.
Yeah, I love Dig Dug, dude. It's so fun and it's so simple. You know, you're just digging around. You have to kill all the enemies. You can drop rocks on them. You can make them explode. But like, there's just something about it.
I think it's just the fact that it is so simple. Like, there's not much you have to think about. Obviously, whenever I think the biggest thing is you got to kill the enemies before they get to you, because if they all start swarming you at the same time, you're done, because you can only attack one person at a time.
Yeah, I mean, the movement is also very good too. Like, it feels very responsive. And I always did love the music only plays when you're moving.
Yes. So like, as you're getting farther into the thing, the music will start playing faster, but it only plays faster when you're moving. So it's a nice little touch. And again, this is another one where I put so many hours into this game that like the later levels are so much fun. And like the amount of enemies with the amount of like strategy you need to put into each level of how to take care of each one. It's really cool.
This is another one where I played it longer than I had to, for sure, because it was just fun. Because like, I generally, if I didn't like the game, I tried to at least put in 5 to 10 minutes of each one just to get a good understanding of it. But this one, I'm like, well, I could just keep playing. But then I'm like, you know what? I should stop.
Yeah. And there's one thing I never realized as a kid, or maybe I did and I forgot, is that when there's one enemy left, typically they'll try to escape and run away before you kill them.
Yeah, I never noticed that either. And I don't know, do you get a penalty for that? I imagine you just get less points because they escaped.
Probably. I thought I lost because it happened, but no, it went to the next level. So it might just be, oh, your score isn't going to be as high because one guy got away.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. So I love this. I'm going to go with an 8.5.
See, I was thinking this is up there with Super Pac-Man, of the nostalgic and just how fun it is and simple. I was going to go with a 9.
I almost went there, but I think I like Miss Pac-Man just a little bit more.
Oh, comparatively, yeah. I would go with Super Pac-Man, or Miss Pac-Man. Damn it, I did it too. I would go with Miss Pac-Man as well, but I think they are equal in terms of score.
All right, so reviews were mixed to good for this volume just because of the improvements, and I think the quality of the games is the highest out of any of them, honestly. So Now Gamer, again, gave it a 7.5, which is 0.5 up from Volume 2, and they said, as to be expected, the graphics are archaic and the sound is positively grating on all 6 games. But both these aspects will no doubt enamor nostalgic fans. On the whole, the collection is a definite improvement on the previous 2 in the series, with enhanced presentation and a decent set of games.
So what is your take on the sound effects?
I mean, yeah, most of them sound bad. It is what it is. It's to be expected with these. Like, I don't really feel like that's like knocking these for bad graphics, you know?
Yeah, I don't think they're that bad of sound effects. I think the worst sound effects were in Volume 1.
Rally X, maybe.
Rally X was what came to mind of the worst ones, but this one I didn't think was that bad that it warranted that, but I get it.
I don't think it's enough to bring it up. I mean, definitely some of them were annoying, but there weren't any here that I felt like we should even talk about, you know?
No.
All right, so that brings us to our scores. This is the best one. Not even close to a question. I think it has the best games, has the best presentation. Now, we went 6.5 for the other ones. I'm trying to think of how high I want to go, because this is still at its core an arcade compilation. So I don't think it's amazing, but I think I'm going to go with a 7.5.
Damn it, you took the words right out of my mouth.
Nice.
Going from a 6.5, I was like, is 7.5 too high? So I'm relieved to hear that you were going to go the same route.
I almost went 8.
Calm down there.
Yeah, I literally was like, chill out. That's too far.
Keep in mind, if you even made it this far, this is a very long episode. But we have 3 more volumes to get through later on. So they could get a lot better from here.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect us to go on this long. So that puts us at 7.5.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I forgot we didn't do that part. This has been going on for so long. I'm tired.
Yeah, I know. I haven't eaten dinner yet. I'm hungry. I'm like, I got to get out of here.
So there's no ties. This is below Dino Crisis 1, above Siphon Filter. Still feels weird to say that with what it is.
Can you believe this is in the top 10 right now? That's crazy.
It is pretty crazy.
It's not going to stay there. It's just think it's not going to stay there.
But it goes back to what we were talking about. Like, considering what it is, it's a compilation of arcade games. It's weird to say that this is in the top 10, but it's not going to stay there. But at the same time, it's like, does it deserve to be that high?
I think when you review the game for what it is, it's very good at what it is trying to be. So I think the score stands for sure.
Oh, agreed. And the amount of work and effort they put into making the experience bigger than what it was. And I think that alone is a high score.
Yeah, I mean, I've had plenty of different compilations like this over the years. Like, I had a Sega one for Xbox when I was a kid. You know, I had a couple other ones like that, and those don't do anything close to this, and they came out after. Like, the Sega one that I had is literally just the list of fucking games. Like, yeah, the box art is there. There's a tiny little bit of text, but that's it. Like, they went above and beyond, and I think they should be rewarded for that.
I can completely agree with everything you just said.
Well, all right. This is the longest episode ever, which is surprising, but that is going to do it for us. Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you enjoyed this, please remember to like and subscribe, as well as give us a rating on podcast services. We'll see you next week.